Well, Bud Light has lost its spot as America's top-selling beer after sales dropped nearly 25% for the month of May. Conservatives began a boycott of the beer after transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney advertised for the brand on social media back in April.
This month I celebrated my day 365 of womanhood, and Bud Light sent me possibly the best gift ever, a can with my face on it.
From then, sales went south. Joining us live now, the Associate Professor of Marketing at Drexel University's Liebau College of Business, Daniel Korschun. Daniel, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us this morning. So graphs do show quite a drop in sales after that ad. Is that down to the boycott?
It's definitely part of the boycott. And by the way, thanks for having me. There's a boycott element from conservatives, but there's also an element of more liberal consumers who were bothered by the response that the company has taken to the boycott. So in other words, the Bud Light, they issued an apology after this boycott started, and a lot of liberals were very upset with it. So they're getting it from both sides, and I think that's one of the reasons why we're seeing such a precipitous drop.
Because it's not just Bud Light, right? It's extended to Anheuser-Busch's other brands, including the main staple being Budweiser.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think most consumers, they make a connection between those. There's a psychological connection that people have between those brands. So it's very natural that it spill over.
So just doing my calculations here. So whatever the payment was to Dylan Mulvaney to advertise Bud Light on social media, it's cost the company billions of dollars. So from a business sense, it must rank as one of the poorest in history.
It certainly was, a series of mistakes, really, because it wasn't just the partnership itself, but also their reaction to the partnership. So what it did was it damaged the relationships with consumers on both sides of this issue. But for me, this is not a lesson in companies should not ever get involved in politics, because if you look at Modelo, which is the brand that is overtaking and is now in the #1 spot, that brand itself is very outspoken on immigration from Mexico, which is, by the way, a very, it's an issue that could irk consumers, but because of the way that they've done it, the way that they've integrated it into the brand, it's much more natural. It comes across as much more authentic. The way that Bud Light engaged in this partnership was it felt disconnected from the brand. And then what happened was we had conservatives mostly who really felt betrayed by this, and then liberals who felt betrayed by the response.
No, I mean, I didn't know that Bud Light was the top-selling beer in America, Daniel. I've had it once, and it's an appalling beer, I have to say, regardless of who's selling it. Do you drink? You don't drink it, do you?
Well, there have been a lot of people buying that beer for a very long time. So it has had the #1 spot for quite some time.
Yeah, no, it prides itself on being like a working class beer. For Australians who probably don't know how successful it's been, it's described as a working class beer, right? Big in middle America.
That's absolutely right. It's always been that sort of mainstream beer, and they've actually worked very hard over the years to bring those associations with America, with hard work, with a lot of the values that people would consider to be American.
So how do they turn it around, Daniel? Is there a way out?
It will be a very long road for them. I think this is the kind of betrayal, as I said, from both sides that is not it's not an obvious one that with any easy fix. It really is going to be it could be months, it could be years before they fully come back. But it's worth noting there have been a lot of people who said how much has dropped, and it's been a very, very large drop. But they are now the #2, so it's not
right.
They're still solvent. They're doing fine, but they obviously have a lot of work if they are to get back to where they need.
But is it also, and I'll close here, I mean, Target just got itself into trouble, for what it was selling during Pride Month. When you've got what happened here with Bud Light and Dylan Mulvaney, is this a warning for companies who exploit culture wars? Should that be a warning in the months, years ahead that probably should be avoided?
In my research, I find over and over again that there's no way around it. There's no way to avoid this kind of thing, because people are going to continue to ask what are the values that are driving companies.
Right.
So it's really a matter of how do you manage it? When do you get in? What types of issues do you take on? And when you do it in the way that Bud Light did, it felt like it was a departure. For Target, they may have extended a little bit too far. They pulled back a little bit, but it's still fairly consistent with their brand. So I wouldn't ever recommend that a company completely try to be neutral all the time, because I just don't think in the modern world that that's a viable strategy.
Okay, Daniel, good to have you with us this morning. Thank you so much. Talk to you again soon.